Well, the latest chapter in the Norwich City PR disaster class is complete. We've seen Norwich City complete their AGM. It took place on Thursday evening. The media is out. The interviews are out there. It's time to react to it all. Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Jack Reeve, Talk Norwich City. Look, Norwich find themselves in such a difficult and delicate position at the moment, and it was always going to be fascinating to see what came out of the AGM. And although I don't think there was anything too groundbreaking and particular hot takes that we maybe haven't seen before or heard before, I think it just amplified the sentiment and the mood around the football club that this board are seemingly sleepwalking into Championship mediocrity, and that shouldn't be accepted. But it does seem as if that is the direction of travel, at least for the short term. I think there were some overriding comments that probably took the headlines. Delia Smith describing the Boo Boys as kind of putting a negative spin on things at the football club, and actually the vast majority of fans are happy with what they're seeing. She described it as 80% of fans being happy and the 20% being the loud minority. Delia also claimed that the impact of the club's injury crisis has been understated by fans and the media, requesting more sympathy for David Wagner on that front. So we had those sections there. And we also had Ben Napper saying that he needs more time to assess the future of David Wagner at this football club. Now, Norwich City lie, 14th in the division. We've got a East Anglian derby coming up in 2 weeks' time with Ipswich Town flying in the Championship. This is a really pivotal month for Norwich. 7 Championship fixtures in the month of December, and seemingly in the next couple of weeks we won't be seeing change. Now, let's tackle these themes one by one. Let's start with the sentiment in the fan base still being positive, according to Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones, and that 80% of the fan sphere are happy or content with what's going on. Now, I don't have the data to back up that claim, but it feels very off. I think the reason Delia Smith may think that the vast majority are happy with what's going on is because things have turned apathetic at Carrow Road. There isn't necessarily a toxicity about the place. I think there has been at times, but actually people are just becoming switched off to it all. The anger and the frustration of all of this has passed, and you can't stay in that state of mind for a prolonged period. And actually what happens is that then turns to apathy when you can see that your voice isn't being heard and that your opinion isn't being listened to. And I think that's what happens after all of that, and I think that's what we're seeing happen now. Norwich have to be really careful, because season ticket renewals are just around the corner, and I think renewal rates have been incredibly high in the last few years, despite the football being average at best, because of a few reasons. I think there's still been a degree of hope. I think there's been David Wagner coming in, and I think that new manager bounce kind of gives you a degree of hope. You've still had parachute payments. Norwich City have historically been really good at bouncing back into the Premier League. That isn't going to be the case this time around unless a miracle happens. So there's been something to cling on to. Also, Norwich are in a really unique situation and location where we're the only professional football club in Norfolk. The catchment area is absolutely massive, so there is always going to be demand for tickets. But we're in a stage now where fans are starting to tune out with what's going on at the football club. There is real discontent with what's going on, and by the sounds of things, that's not being listened to. I was really frustrated and actually a little bit angry with the way that Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones responded to Connor Southwell's comment from the Pinkham when he said, and he questioned the governance and the structure at Norwich City and whether that works in the current kind of footballing sphere and whether that's going to be a successful board structure going forwards. Now, I think this has been, discussed at length on multiple platforms, and whether they think it's right or they don't think it's right, it clearly hasn't worked over the past couple of seasons, and we find ourselves where we are because of that. I think you look at the structure, and you probably have to go back to Alan Balkett to find a chairman with real competency and someone with real grit and steel in the business world, outside and inside of football, to find a kind of structure at board level where things are ticking over and there's proper accountability as well. I think that's the key thing for Norwich City fans. Are those at the top of the football club being held to account? I would say not in the correct manner at this stage. I think Delia was incredibly personable and very kind when it came to talking about Stuart Webber. She said that, you know, his work ethic can't be dismissed, and I think that's a fair point. But working hard and whether it works effectively as a structure are two very different things. Stuart Webber's tenure at the last kind of 2 years was poor. Recruitment was bad. Money was wasted. Fans, the connection between fans and club was probably at an all-time low. And that was still deemed a success by Delia Smith. She said she was utterly devastated when he left the football club. Now, they brought in Ben Napper, and he came in early, and he comes in with a decent CV. And we must add, he hasn't been in this role before, so it is something very different. But we still haven't seen any action from Ben Napper. I think he's been here 18 days. Ben said that he needs more time to address the situation with David Wagner. I'm looking at this and going, right, he wants a certain style of football that's certainly not being met. He wants a certain demographic of players in this squad and a certain look about the squad, and it couldn't be further from that. So, and that was chosen kind of by David Wagner, kind of by Stuart Webber, in terms of an experienced set of players. We've got one of, if not the oldest, starting 11 in the Championship. Everything that Wagner has seemingly wanted to happen with this squad, whether right or wrong, from what I'm hearing from Ben Napper, is the complete opposite. We must know by now, the sample size is huge, that what we're seeing from David Wagner isn't going to be successful. Now, we can hold on for another month if we so wish, and I suspect we'll be in a similar position. We'll probably win one, draw a couple, lose a few, and get thumped by Ipswich Town in the process. But we're just delaying the inevitable here, and that is that David Wagner will be sacked. But surely progress can be made from now until then. And I understand and I appreciate the Mark Atanasio standpoint of you can't sack your way to success, and that is certainly not a sustainable method, but nor is this. And you have to do something to try and change the fortunes. It's all well and good saying we're trying to build something bigger and we want a long-term manager, etc., etc. At the moment, we're doing neither. We're not building anything. The finances look a mess. And we're also not setting ourselves up well for a long-term manager. It's not going to be David Wagner. He's not the man to take us forward. I think the football club are aware of that, and they're looking for a replacement. But I get the feeling that Norwich is sleepwalking here. Utterly sleepwalking. I saw a pair in Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones, and I almost felt sorry for them. They, looked... And as you would at 82 years old, it's remarkable they still do what they do, but they shouldn't be in the position where they're ultimately running, this football club, and they are holding those below them to account. I don't think that's a great place to be in. Their answers were muddled and confused. They've been majority shareholders at this football club now for 28 years. They've seen football change drastically, and I do question whether they are the people to guide us forwards. And I think they probably have a degree of inevitability about them as well, in terms of they know that this isn't going to last for too much longer in terms of their ownership, their majority ownership of this football club. I think Mark Atanasio is in this for the long run and sees this as a very healthy acquisition for his investment group, and probably deems things that, he is the man to take this forward. I was actually impressed with Mark Atanasio. I think you could see him almost visibly squirming at some of the responses from Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones. And I'm certainly not pinning entire blame on Delia and Michael, but it's a collection of mishaps that have led us to this stage. not acting quick enough. I think we've been very patient with not only managers and head coaches, but those people on the board. We have built a system where we do lack structure and we do lack governance. And ultimately, that has led us to where we are now. We are a very average/poor championship team, and we had an opportunity to potentially become an established Premier League side. We have taken a fairly stable and secure financial position and turned it into peril, and we are now relying on heavy loans from not external people, but we've had to seek external investment in the shape of Mark Atanasio to prop us up and the Atanasio group. So I think this is heading in one direction. I think Mark Atanasio and his group will be, majority owners soon, and I think they will hope that is the case. I think Dealer and Michael Wynne-Jones are probably nearing the end of their tenure, but we do need to see some action from Ben Napper. He's spoken a good game, and he's undoubtedly a very shrewd operator, but nothing has changed from when he arrived at the football club, and it is clear as day that things do need to change. The contempt towards fans is not going to help, even if you believe that Norwich City fans have been overly negative, which I don't think they have. I think we've been incredibly patient, and I think we've supported in relegations and very poor championship seasons. We have been here in our numbers when we were dropping into League One. We are still and will always be incredibly loyal and committed fans. And Norwich fans at the moment feels like we are being taken for granted and treated with real contempt. And that has to change. That has to change. We are right to hold those at the football club to account. That shouldn't be deemed unfair criticism. Yes, Norwich have progressed, I'd say, off the pitch in terms of infrastructure in the past couple of decades, but most other clubs have been in that situation as well. So we're in a position now of real make or break. This could easily go further downhill if we don't act quickly. And I'm not just talking in terms of managerial positions here now. I'm talking about squad overhauls. I'm talking about how this board looks. I'm talking about ownership structures. Lots needs to change if we want to continue to thrive as a football club, which we have done in previous years. But the complete complacency I feel from some of those at the AGM last night was concerning, and that's my take. I thought the comments around fans was poor. I think the vast majority of people are unhappy, and rightly so. The comments around football clubs go up and down feels complacent. Just because other football teams do that doesn't mean that we should. So many times we've heard that we are a unique football club and a football club that should have its own principles. Well, let's not be like everyone else. Let's try and buck some trends. And even if those trends don't get bucked, at least we've been seen to try. And I think that's important. It is going to be a intriguing couple of weeks. Bristol City awaits. And then Ipswich Town looms on the 16th of December. I suspect David Wagner could still be here by that point, and that worries me hugely. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the AGM. Plenty was said. I didn't want to go into every single comment in this video, but instead look at the mood and some of the messages that were coming out, and I wasn't happy with what I saw. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.